5, 4, 3. Welcome to the first edition of Biceps and Bullets. This is our first podcast, first attempt at it. And I'm Anthony. We got
I'm Deuce.
And I'm Andy.
And we got D-Mac, Dave, our producer, behind the camera here. So we're just going to talk about primarily the CrossFit Open today, and then a little bit about goal setting. So just getting right into it. What's your guys, Eric, Deuce, and Andy? How'd you feel about the Open this year? And do you think it went well? Are you happy with your results? Disappointed with it? Just kind of some general ideas.
For me, it was it's probably the best. It's obviously the best I've ever done. Leading up to that, I had the most consistent training up through this Open. But I think it was for the gym itself. We had a lot of folks join this year. What do we have? 28 total. Is that the exact number?
That joined the
I mean, that's
Open
awesome.
for
Last
sure.
year we had what, 7?
I think 5.
Yeah, 5.
I think 5 finished.
5. So just having that community aspect of it and 28 people, I mean, it motivated me to get in here every week and actually show up, even if I wasn't going to do the WOD, just to support people. So I think the breakdown this year was awesome in terms of splitting it RX and then having a scaled division also led a lot more people at least from our gym into doing it. So it was obviously challenging, and it exposed a lot of weaknesses like it does every year for everybody. So
yeah.
But all in all, I was happy with my result, and I was pretty happy with everybody's performance overall.
Yeah, as a coach, I was psyched, man. The participation alone was like, I don't know what percentage, but it was huge. Just the fact that we got, from 5 to 28.
Yeah.
It just screams how important the community is to this whole thing.
Yeah, and also I think just seeing everybody up their intensity level. I mean, we all push pretty hard and push each other, but when you actually set a workout every week that you're going to do and you show up in here and it almost haunts you a little bit. I mean, it puts the pressure on. It makes you a little nervous, like everybody was watching their TV when the workout came out every night and was like, oh, crap, dude, like this is going to be rough, So I think to see our members push that and even see people that weren't signed up for the Open hopping in and doing the workouts is going to lead us next year to have an even huger amount of people doing it. So that, like I said, that's motivating for any one of us to come in here and see, especially those of us that have been doing it for a while.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think for me, the biggest thing was like some of our newer members jumping right into it. Even if they only had 3 to 6 months experience in it, they were like all for getting into it, whether they did RX or scaled. Seeing like people that were new and like totally freaked out and scared by it, were all jumping in for it. That was that much more motivation for me to really push hard on all the workouts and go for that extra couple reps at that last few seconds instead of just calling it quits. It's like these people are new. They're new to this. I'm more experienced, but not a veteran by any means. But I felt like I needed to up my game just to keep pace with everyone else.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, it makes you look more at yourself too, and also be like, you're setting an example for these folks. They can see, the work you've put in the past year has got you to this level as compared to last year. So, it's motivating, I think, as a group for everyone. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I was actually having the same conversation with one of our other coaches, or coaches in training, and saying that as people that have done the Open previously or have gone on to other competitions or done well in local comps, you'll actually get members inside of your own gym that will look at you as a seasoned CrossFit athlete, kind of like we look at like guys like Rich Froning and Dan Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
Like
right.
You are the gym's elite, and it's kind of weird to think about that and be like, well, I'm not at that level, but for your facility you are.
Mm-hmm.
So they're coming in, they're looking for you for motivation. They're looking to you for motivation, and it really sets such a cool atmosphere and environment, and just people just want to drive and push, and it's just so much fun. So more reasons to do the CrossFit Open this year, next year, and every year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I was super pumped with you guys and your performances and all our athletes that finished it for sure.
And then kind of hitting on like what Deuce talked about it being really challenging and everything. There were a lot of gymnastics-based stuff this year. That's a weakness for me, so that was kind of showed a hole for me, but at the same time, it was fun for me to kind of bust my ass and really challenge myself on those movements that I knew were not good movements for me, but still push myself through and get as much out of it as I can.
Yeah, I mean, and it totally sets you up for, and this is a good segue for us to talk about next. It sets you up for what are you going to plan for the next year? Like what are you going to take from the Open and use that to project what you're going to do for the next year, because I think that's really important. Like we've always talked about having goals, but it's good to set long-term and short-term goals. So it's a good transition for us. Anthony, what do you think people should pull from the Open, and what should we do to move into the next part of our training, which is pretty much the next 340 days for us, I guess you could say.
If you go back and you look at the workouts, right, from the 2015 Open, there was a whole lot of difference between 2014 and 2015, just based on the fact that they had the scale division and the RX division. They had a lot of, well, at least several movements, several high-level gymnastics movements or higher-level gymnastics movements, which typically you only see at regionals. And I anticipate, like in 2016, we'll see something like pistols or some more high-level gymnastics stuff that you in the Open that previously you'd only see at regionals competition. So it really tells you if you want to participate in CrossFit as a sport in the game of CrossFit, like you're going to have to up your game with gymnastics for sure. That's what they really stressed this year. And if you go back and you look at all of the previous Open workouts, you can really kind of anticipate what's going to come based on what's come before. And this year wasn't really any different, other than the skill level was higher, and as a gym, we've been focusing so much on strength, and we always focus. We have a strength bias for sure, running on the conjugate system, but we fell short with the gymnastics, and I think we would have had a way better turnout as far as our scoring if we would have spent a little bit more time on gymnastics, maybe some more ring dips, maybe some more handstand work, all that kind of stuff that would have led into us finishing just a little bit better, because it was a skill deficiency, but it was just kind of like it was a super, like as a coach I can look into that and see like, all right, this is a hole in our program as far as CrossFit as a sport. So if CrossFit HQ is saying like gymnastics is super important, this is what we got to do for our program for everybody that wants to participate in the Open and do well. So moving on from here, improving weaknesses. So looking at your scores. So if you had one where, say, you finished like, I don't know, in the top, let's say in the top 10 for 3 of the 5, and then your other 2 were high-level gymnastics work, and you finished like 6,000th or something like that. That's obviously a glaring weakness, and you need to fill that in. And if you ignore that, you can plan on just sucking again next year at the same thing that you sucked at this year.
And getting mad at yourself for not working on it the previous year, which is the same thing I do every year.
Falling out of a handstand and kicking the wall.
I'm really strong, but when right. We're punching the wall.
Well, then what's your take on, like, with the high-level gymnastics and, like, the new standard we saw with, like, the handstand push-ups?
Yeah, so that was super fun. It was absolutely horrible. It sucked. But the fact that they changed the standard, it is what it is. The standard is a standard. I mean, people can get mad about it all they want, but so make up your own standard. So that's what we're gonna do is make up our own standard for stuff. So always change. Constantly varied functional movements. Right. That's CrossFit. So count on maybe facing the wall, doing a handstand, doing a wall walk plus a handstand. Where your nose has got to be on the wall or something ridiculous like that.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, it does. It sounds awful. But if you just invent your own variations on the workouts, or you get into, you look at like gymnastics. Let's stay with gymnastics because we've been talking about it. If you go and you look at, I don't know, just talk to any gymnastics coach, like a kid's gymnastics coach. You'll find all sorts of different variations on the movements that we do in here, and then you just put those into a workout. And it's that easy,
right.
And that way you'll get different variations of it. Just like with conjugate, we do sumo pulls and deficit pulls and conventional pulls and block pulls, all these different pulls to work on a deadlift. You do the same thing with the handstand push-up, and all of a sudden you're covering all the variations of it. It's not a big deal anymore. And even if CrossFit dreams up the most ridiculous, absurd variation of a handstand push-up, you're still going to kick ass at it.
Right, because you're ready. You've prepared all those different variables.
It's, like what Shane Sweat said at the powerlifting cert, CrossFit is just being ready for anything at any time.
Yep.
So if you prepare yourself for anything at any time and not get so focused on, what your Diane time is, because I want to PR at Diane, why don't you PR at Diane with a strict handstand push-up facing the wall? right? So
Right.
make it a variation of it.
Yeah, and that's something I've learned from Andy. You know, if I'm looking at a WOD and I think it's going to be too easy for me, why not make it a little harder for yourself?
Just make
You
it
know?
different.
Yeah, make
harder,
it different.
harder is variable. You know, I mean, you can make it harder, make it heavier, make it a weight of vest.
Right, or
but
throw in something like we did push-ups the other day. Well, Andy did ring push-ups instead. So
Yeah.
you know, why not?
Yeah,
Why not?
just always different variations. If you always do the same thing, you're no longer being constantly varied.
Right.
You know, not random. It's got to be thought out. But that's where your coaching and your programming comes in for sure.
Well, I think something else too, something that helps me, like if you know, and this is just throwing it out there, like if you want to get better at something, and say it's as easy as double unders, give yourself an extra 10 minutes every day to just work on double unders. You know, because small increments of things will make you better over time. Like you're not gonna just come in here one Saturday and do double unders for 3 hours and be better at it. You know,
Right.
So you got to work on it constantly, and you know, even if I guess that's the way I look at it. You don't, you know. For me, starting out, like, you know, you look at 4 years ago, I came in balls out and tried everything as hard as I could. It probably wasn't the smartest way to approach it, and a lot of injuries incurred. But for people coming in, you know, it's good to put that into your head that you're not going to learn all this stuff right off the first week. You know, you're not going to get better at it right away. So,
Well, and
so create baby steps for yourself to get to that.
Yeah, a tactical approach.
A
to
tactical
training.
approach. Good plug, dude. Good plug. A tactical approach. Well,
Yeah,
but
but
that's really it, though. You know, it really is. It's everybody's gonna come in here, and you get competitive. There's no way to come into doing CrossFit and not be competitive with everybody around you. Be like, I'm gonna be better than that guy, or I'm gonna be better than this chick. You know, if a chick's blowing you away in a while, you're gonna get mad and you're gonna try harder.
You've never worked out with Julie Fouché, though.
Right.
I've done that several times.
But
It's never
thing
good
is,
for
you
your
know,
ego.
my thing is to have a smart approach to what you're doing here, and give yourself reasonable goals, you know, and approach those with, like, I guess, you know, a baby step mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you see it every year. We'll see it again next year. But it's like, oh, hey, there's a muscle up that's opening the workout now instead of closing it. So if I want to do RX, I got to finish this muscle up.
Right.
And if I don't have a muscle up, it makes it kind of difficult. So you spend 4 or 5 days just trying to crash course yourself on, you know, flailing around in the rings trying to get that muscle up. And, you know, maybe that's not the best time to do it.
Probably not.
Yeah, find a plan. And say, all right, how do I move on from here and progress from here to get that muscle up next year and to finish the workout as RX?
Yeah, and seeing some of that, like especially them opening with a muscle up and then handstand push-ups being the first time this year too, you can see everything's going to continually progress. Regionals are going to trickle down. I mean, we all know as a whole we got to up our game every year.
Yeah.
Well,
Just think about the first year. The first year we saw Amanda in the CrossFit Games. You know, now Amanda was a regional workout. You know, I mean, how long before that type of 135, you know, squat snatches in the open?
Yeah.
I don't think we're far off.
I don't think so either.
And as athletes, we should all be very excited about that because you shouldn't enter a competition to do really well and not push yourself. It should be challenging. It should be hard. It should push you outside your comfort zone. If you're not getting pushed outside your comfort zone, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your money.
You're not getting any better. You're going to plateau.
Yeah, you just want to do it to be the big fish in the small pond. Then you know, what a fucking waste of time.
Right.
Yeah.
So
You're going to end up eating pizza at Planet Fitness every Tuesday.
you'll be the best athlete on that treadmill. I tell you. But yeah, so yeah, moving on from here, just work on filling in those weaknesses, and you know, I mean, we get done with the Open, we go right into if you were one of the athletes that got selected to go to regionals, which gets smaller every year, then obviously you got more competition to do. As we get into summertime, you know, especially in the Midwest, we only have a very small window of seasonal ability to do outdoor competitions. So you got basically spring through summer, late summer, early fall to do all your local competitions. So if you want to do like local competition circuit, now's the time to do it. So keep focusing on MetCon. You know, keep pushing that kind of classic CrossFit.com HQ style training. It depends how good you want to be at the local circuit. Like, do you want to just like, I just want to kick ass at every local competition? Then, yeah, that's what you got to do. If you're not interested in that, if you're like, I've had enough MetCon, which I think most people have at the end of 5 weeks, people totally underestimated. I said 5 weeks for this CrossFit Open is a long time. It's going to be mentally draining. I think people looked at me and was like, whatever.
I fall apart after 2.
Yeah,
You know,
dude,
That last 3 usually for me is a battle of finishing every workout just to complete the Open. Like,
Oh my God, the first week is so much fun because everyone's just kicking ass and taking names and PRing on all kinds of movements. And then week 2 is such a drop off.
Yep.
They're like,
Yeah.
oh, I got to do this again. It's for another 4 weeks. This is another month
Unless
long.
you're good at the movements, and then you're like, yeah.
Right. You get something in your wheelhouse, you're like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, and each week you feel like you go through it, you just get your ass kicked more and more.
Yep.
It becomes
Right.
that much more of a mental battle to keep
And that's
going
where
with it.
Yeah, so the mental battle comes in with, every workout as well as the whole month or month and a half or whatever it ends up being. But so keep kicking ass with your Metcons if you're going to do the local comp circuit or regionals, for sure. If you're not going to do that, shift your focus. I mean, maybe do a powerlifting meet, maybe focus on Olympic lifting, something totally different that you can change your mindset. And that's where kind of like, the theory of periodization and stuff like that is, you can talk to your coaches and get more involved in that based on what your goals are. But that's where your individual goals need to always come up with your coaches. If you don't have an individual goal set, you're just going to kind of meander through the rest of the year and be like, well, I guess I just want to do better at the Open because that's really the only thing that we do as a gym. It's got to be more than that. Otherwise, you got 11 more months out of the year that aren't involved in the CrossFit Open.
And you'll probably find yourself in the same position you're in this year. You'll have one good workout, and then the other ones you're gonna be like, oh shit, why didn't I work on that?
Right.
Here we are again, right where I was last year. I can't do a pistol.
Yeah.
Now I'm done. And that's frustrating.
Wheels are kind of just turning, but you're not really gaining any ground.
Right.
Right.
You're getting baby steps and increasing your overall fitness, but you're not really filling in your weaknesses or your holes or whatever. And kind of going slightly one-dimensional, after the Open, whether you go powerlifting, Oli lifting, you can really strengthen one of those areas and then kind of build off of it after that.
Yeah, systemic strength is never a bad thing to focus on. Even doing Highland games or just having fun doing other sports, and just so you have some sort of focus, and then do that for 2, 3, 4 months, whatever you want it to be, and then shift it to something else. You're still doing the GPP, the general physical preparedness, the concepts of CrossFit. But you need a focus. You need something to focus on to push you there. Otherwise, you're just kind of meandering through.
Yep. And you're gonna get bored and possibly stop.
Right,
if you don't keep it interesting and fresh, and if any one of us does that, we're gonna regret it because you're gonna be stale for 6 months. You're not gonna do anything. You're gonna come back in here and start from ground zero again, and nobody wants to do that. So.
Yeah.
You got to keep it fresh and give yourself those goals to make it to that next stage that you set for yourself.
Yeah, keep it interesting and exciting for sure.
And then a lot of times people coming out of the Open, we all got our asses kicked, but at the same time you have like a new level of confidence. You're like, holy shit, I can handle this stuff. This isn't, it's tough, but I can do this.
Yeah.
People are gonna start pushing themselves to do more. They're gonna.
Yeah, absolutely. How many PRs did we see on cleans after 15.1A?
A lot.
15.1.
Damn near everybody did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you force yourself to do it. You're on a stage. You're on your own little stage in here, and you want to set that example for yourself. So it pushes you to that level. Sometimes it's hard to put yourself on that stage in a class. Like it's hard to come in here on a Tuesday night and be pumped up and ready to get your bench max. So.
Well, and at the same time, you shouldn't be though. Like if
Yeah.
you're coming in here every night and you're freaking out and like I gotta hit a PR, like you're gonna get hurt. You're gonna get burned out.
Yeah, and it's not realistic,
No,
and
it's
that's
not.
really what everybody has to pick is their realistic spot at some point. Like what's your realistic goal and what's realistic for you? What's your individual goal? We're all not going to be Rich Froning. A lot of us have missed that window, but that's not to say you still can't gain something from it. And
Missed that window. Yeah, we weren't born. We weren't born as Rich Froning. That's
right,
for sure.
Right, we missed that window.
Yeah, but yeah, right on with that for sure. Yeah, I know as a gym, when the thing that we're going to focus on, we're going to get it right back down to the base of fitness, right? What is your nutrition like? So we're getting into the whole life challenge. It's kind of started out of CrossFit LA with Andy Petronic, and it's a system that's already set up with the software. It just makes tracking nutrition fun. Because have you guys done Zone or Paleo or any type of
Played around with both of them,
macros or anything like
track it for a
that?
few months, and then you kind of start to burn yourself out because you're doing it on your own. You're not doing it with other people, and you start driving
it's
yourself nuts.
really hard to be disciplined if you're trying to do it on your own shoulders. I mean, it's pretty.
Yeah,
easy
it sucks.
It's pretty easy to cheat when you don't have a
It
system to
sucks.
follow.
No, let's not sugarcoat it. Tracking your nutrition sucks, and
it
if
will
you're doing
drive
something.
all the people around you absolutely crazy. They
Well,
will
and
hate
it's
you
can.
in the
it's
process
a
of
reality
it.
check. I mean, you're being honest with yourself, and sometimes that's hard to do when you're like, I really am eating like shit.
Yeah.
I'm training hard, but I'm not doing the back end that I should be doing to set myself up for good training. Taco Bell on the way home from the gym is not a good protein shake, obviously.
You mean Abbey Ale is maybe not a good carb? I don't know.
Well, it's a carb.
I don't know if I can cut that one out.
Because we're all in a powerlifting cycle, so we can,
right.
We're
bulking. We're bodybuilding now.
bulking. Bulking cirrhosis.
So like back to, like to the whole life challenge. How does that play for like people come out of the Open? It's kind of like another goal to kind of. Is that like a good thing for people to kind of like jump on this, and this is like kind of where they can kickstart for the next year preparing for the Open?
Yeah, I mean, just preparing for everything. So if you can take one more variable out of your training, right, and take more guesswork out, so like training for the unknown and the unknowable, that's CrossFit, right? So we're training for anything at any time. But the more you can take the unknown away, and you can monitor your food, your nutrition, your hydration, your sleep, any extra work outside of the gym, plus your gym stuff. We all track our workouts already, but tracking everything, you take the guesswork out, and then you end up performing better. It's kind of like I've been talking a lot of this at some guys I work with on the department. What's the first thing you do when you're trying to tighten the budget? You start looking at receipts and spending, right? So inherently by doing that, you end up spending less money. So you'll have a better budget straight out of the gate just by doing that one step. Just inherently, you'll spend less money by tracking how much money you're spending. And this is kind of the same thing. You'll eat less shit if you monitor the shit you're eating.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a reality check, because a lot of people, if you're not thinking about it, like good choices outweigh bad choices, obviously. So if you're not thinking about it now, you're eating whatever the hell you want, and you don't even care. If you start putting that on paper, putting it in a system, you're going to be like, whoa. Like,
yeah, it's an
I'm
accountability.
really not as healthy as I thought I was.
Yeah, it looks you back in the face. You're like,
Yeah.
maybe I didn't need those nachos Bel Grande.
Yeah, right.
And even for people that
False
have,
statement, everyone needs nachos Bel
Half a
Grande.
tub of ice cream that's not a good midnight snack. Half a tub of ice cream isn't going to cut it. But, I think that's a part of being responsible as a person. I mean, it's a good way to start into a training plan for the next year.
Yeah.
Because if you think about, you look at any diet, period, it's more diet than it is exercise into being healthy. I mean, exercise is usually a smaller part than the diet is.
Yeah,
so
you can never exercise your way out of a shitty diet for sure.
No, you can't. It works against it. So I think that's a really good place for people to start, myself included. Maybe I should sign up for the whole life challenge before it's too late.
Well, and another thing too, like we obviously got a lot of cops that work out at our gym. But Deuce, you work shift work. You work weekends and nights. You work weekends and nights. I work weekends and nights and all sorts of weirdness. So it's always going to be all over the place. Our hormone levels are going to get all fucked up because of the work we do. And I mean, the more guesswork you can take out of it, the more stuff you can control, the more you can kind of counteract that.
Right.
So what I've been telling all our members with this whole life challenge is we spend 1 hour a day at the gym. Maybe. Most people are in here. Maybe if they're training a lot, they're training 5 days a week, which is like 5 hours a week. How many other hours are there in the week?
Too many.
Right.
Too many to mess up, man.
Right. To derail everything. So the more you can just monitor that, the more you can make everything better. And it's just that one act of just tracking. That's all you gotta do is just track yourself, and you don't have to do it forever. That's why I really like the way they set this up. It's an 8-week challenge. It's a game. It's fun. And it just makes it more fun to do something that's shitty and boring and nobody likes to do.
Yeah. And then the great thing about this for like people that have tracked in the past, maybe they haven't done it in a couple of years. They think they're doing good, then you start tracking everything, and they're like, "Oh shit, I'm not really doing as good as I thought I was."
Right.
And then making it like a game like that, everyone's going to get kind of competitive with it. You're going to be like, "Oh, try and be the highest score for the day, highest score for the week." You don't want to lose points because you ate that half a tub of ice cream or whatever.
Right. Well, I've never tracked, so I'm definitely going to sign up. Maybe I'll make it to 40 if I do that.
So then, I mean, like the way the thing's played out, not to get super in depth or whatever, but if you have good weeks or whatever, you get a free day. You get that cheat meal. You get that,
trip to regionals.
Absolutely. You have that couple extra beers when you go out to dinner and have that burger or pizza or whatever. So I mean, it's you are rewarded a little bit going through it. It's not being like beating your head against the wall for 8 weeks going crazy, but have some fun, be competitive with each other, really
learn about yourself.
Yeah, and I guess something to touch on is that even if you don't stick with that the rest of the year, you're still going to think about it and make better decisions, From when we started, 4 or 5 years ago doing this, I mean, some of us longer than that, we've already started making better decisions as opposed to what we did before. And I guess that's something I look at, is that even if you take 10% of this and use it the rest of the year, you're going to be better off than you were last year by not
even
doing
1%.
Yeah. So, I mean, the little you gain from it is worth it alone.
Yeah, and like tying that in with like how you did in the open or whatever, like those 2 reality checks or whatever, it's kind of a good point to really gauge where your weaknesses are, what you want to improve on, what you don't want to improve on, and even like playing with the whole life challenge, whether depending on which track you go off of or whatever, you're really going to find a lot about like how your body functions by having this food or that food, and do I really need this? Do I really need that? Like milk or whatever. Like
it might give you the choice between drinking a Mountain Dew or drinking a water with some lemon in it. You know what I mean? Which obviously, if you put those 2 on a scale, which one should you probably do? Probably the water.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and if you really want to tie in like whole life challenge to competition with CrossFit and competition in anything, the more you can understand how your body works, like what you were saying, like how this is going to affect you versus how white rice versus sweet potato is going to affect you as far as your carb intake. You're going to know how to fuel your performance when it comes down to game day, when it comes down to January, February next season, next year when we're looking at going into the 2016 CrossFit season. You're going to know how to better fuel yourself based on just taking 8 weeks to get to know what you perform better on.
Your body,
well, that's something I took from you for the Open this year. Like, instead of just showing up on Monday to do the workout or Thursday or whenever Saturday, I would actually plan ahead. Like, I'm going to start, eating more carbs this day and planning out for that one workout. And I think that helped me out a lot because I came in ready to go. I'd get plenty of sleep, drink plenty of water, which is usually something I don't do enough of, is drinking water. But I think those things help me have the best Open I've ever had just by planning instead of just showing up and being like, I'm just going to get this over with.
Right.
Like, actually being excited for it, planning for it, and treating it as a competition every week.
Yeah, just prioritizing it higher. Yeah.
And I think, like, as coaches, we can give people like nutrition tips, try this food, try that food, but to really go through and track it, you don't really know what works best for your body. Like, everybody functions so differently.
And you don't.
Everyone recovers
you also,
at
if you don't do
rates.
something like this, you don't put a line in the sand, so you have nothing to judge by.
Yeah.
You can stop eating, garbage for a week, but you're probably still not going to feel that much better. So you're going to be like, well, it didn't even really matter.
Right.
But 8 weeks is long enough to know whether it's going to make a difference or not. And I think that difference alone will show people that I should be making better choices.
Well, and honestly, let's break it down to aesthetics. I mean, that's like the dirty word in CrossFit. Nobody wants us to be like, oh, I want to have abs. Like, bullshit. Everybody wants to have abs.
Right.
So I mean, 4 weeks is going to get you enough to start feeling better. 8 weeks is going to get you enough to start looking better. So you're going to see that in the mirror when you look. When you
because
walk by.
I don't believe those studies that say women like fat dudes better.
That's bullshit.
That's some fat dude writing that. That's some out of shape bastard writing that, ruining my life because I've always had a six pack. I'm not gonna buy it.
Chicks don't like that. Yes,
even
they
though
do.
my
Sorry.
wife's had dreams that I'm fat, and she's laughing at me.
Yeah, so that's
part of it too, and
who doesn't want to look good, man? I mean, how many people start training 2 weeks before they go to Florida so that they look a little better than they did before they get there? I mean, everybody wants to look good, man. I mean, you can't tell me that there's anybody in here that doesn't want to look better. Why?
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of it, man.
Yeah.
And that's one of the that's the icing on the cake. Sometimes is that you're feeling better, you're more healthy, but you also look better.
Well, and that goes into self-esteem too.
And this is a whole nother day of podcasting, but when you go into, you start looking at how you value your self-worth, and what CrossFit does is it shifts the focus from the mirror of the scale to performance, outcome based, right? How fast you went, how much weight you lifted, what your horsepower was, like all those things trump the aesthetics of like what we think of when we think of bodybuilding and stuff like that. But at the same time, everybody's got aesthetic goals too, and we shouldn't ignore those. We just can't focus on those as primary. Like, you can't put your self-worth in whether or not you have a six-pack of abs. Like, that's just ridiculous. But, we can't ignore the fact that that is important, for a lot of people. But we just can't prioritize that as the top of the list for sure. All show, no go.
For a lot of people too, I think they come in to CrossFit training, whatever. They want to lose 20, 30 pounds. They think they lose that, they're going to have abs or whatever. Yeah, that's great. We can help people lose weight and get in better shape. But at the same time, they're going to start out with that goal, and then they're going to be like, "Oh shit, I want to lift more weight.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
snatch
Oh, it
225.
Yeah,
I
and
wanna
it's
deadlift
it
500."
quickly that switch turns
they-
pretty quickly. Where
They catch that bug, and they're like, "Yeah, I want to lose some weight, but I want to lift some heavy weights at the same time."
And it becomes a secondary goal.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is awesome to see that shift, because that's when you really see people's self-esteem
Yep.
and their value of themselves, and they come in with their chest higher and their eyes lit up and ready to train and ready to attack stuff, not because they want to get skinny or what they used to think was like, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is my goal, this is
Right.
what I want to be like, and now it's like, it's totally
Taking a left turn.
and then we want to I want to squat 405, I want to do
Yeah,
this.
because how
I wanna-
many of those people ever would have thought they could have done that?
Yeah,
starting out this?
exactly.
How many
And-
people were afraid to walk through that door because of how intimidating it can seem before you get here?
Yeah.
I mean, that when I see that light go off in people's heads, that gets me excited, because that's awesome to be on that level.
And that gets me jacked up as a coach. I love seeing that. I
Yeah.
love seeing people make that shift. And when you can see it, you can feel it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I tell some people, like, how many other people in your age group are doing that? Not as many as you would think, like that. And that
Like
that
zero.
Yeah, and that should be motivating. That should be
And
motivating
you can
people.
kind of see that look in people's eye. They're like, they go from just wanting to lose weight to really wanting to perform better, whether they're going to do competitions or not. They just want it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
They're really into I want to, instead of doing a 35-pound kettlebell, I'm going 53 today. I'm not going to get maybe as many reps, but I'm going to get a good workout, and I'm going to get stronger. I mean, they kind of start.
Yeah,
playing
and
with
something else to
stuff.
think about too is the people around you you're motivating. I mean, how many of us have influenced people to come in and do this? Like, I never thought my wife would be in here doing CrossFit more than I do every week. But that's awesome that she is. I mean, that makes me feel good. And then, or even when you see your kids following you and doing it. I mean, you're influencing so many people by stepping out and doing this. I mean, you really can't go wrong with it. As crazy as it sounds to some people that you do it. I mean, how many people have came up to you and been like, "Oh, you do CrossFit? That's crazy." And it's
Yeah.
like, it's really not. It's really not. It's putting everything together that you should be doing, in my opinion, if you want total fitness as your goal. If you just don't want the biggest biceps on the beach. If you want.
I want the biggest biceps on the beach. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
Hence the name Biceps and Bullets.
Yeah. That's if you always wear sleeveless shirts everywhere.
Yeah. Need to increase my sleeveless shirt supply.
You should.
We will have a tank top available soon, though.
Oh, good.
Sweet.
Another good plug. Yes, we will.
So
You better have your biceps ready for that.
So moving into the fact that my goals for 2015 are to have the best biceps on the beach. What are some of your guys' goals for the rest of this year? Moving into 2016.
My goal is always consistency in training. Like I said, this past year that has been. I used to be the quarterly CrossFit guy that would come in, do Cindy, and get rhabdo and then disappear for another 3 weeks.
You heard that story, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's happened more than once. So that's my other than Deuce, it's King Rhabdo. That's my secondary name. But
the best part is that you didn't even have a waiver filled out for that gym.
I did not.
You got rhabdo there.
But that's okay. I'd never hold that against him. It was my fault not there. Or I should say your fault, because
It was
you
totally-
always invited me for the worst workouts. Hey, we're doing Fran today. I know you haven't trained in like 6 months and you have a bulging disc, but hey, you'll be okay. No,
Suck it up. You can get
my
crushed.
goal, my goal is always health and consistency, because I think and training smart, really, that is something I've had to push myself to do, is turning that switch on when to know that's enough, stop here. And I think, a lot of us have that issue where you get hype in here, you want to keep pushing hard, but you have to know when to turn that switch off and when to be patient. That's always going to be my goal, is to stay healthy and not be injured. And I think you do that by training smart and turning that switch on when you need to. That, okay, that's good enough for today. I don't need to have the best squat in the gym today. I can chill out, give myself another couple weeks. But also my goal with that consistency aspect is to touch on the things I didn't do very good at the Open this year. Muscle ups, more consistency with the gymnastics stuff. That's stuff I'm going to work in, like I talked about, coming in and working on double unders for 5 minutes, working on handstand push-ups for 5 minutes. Anything I can do to make myself generally more prepared for next year is what I'll be focusing on for sure.
I think for me, it's kind of the same stuff that you said. Polish up my gymnastics moves. Like, I can do all the movements, but they're not super efficient. They crap out in a hurry. So definitely polish up on that stuff. And then for me, I had more of a competitive aspect standpoint. Probably not going to regionals, but local competitions are fun to do. Kind of up my game for just local competitions, whether I do 1 or 2 a year. to where I can hang with, the top people in town or whatever. Whether I get on the podium or not, that's great if I would, but just to, be competitive and hang with some of those guys. And then just kind of, like Deuce said, staying consistent with my training. Like, that's something I do pretty good on. Maybe kind of nail it down a little bit more and come up with some kind of a truly consistent routine and like a training plan that works for me, instead of kind of bounce around a few days here, miss a day here, hit a few days there. Really kind of try and dial it in to find out what works best for me, and then kind of build off of that going forward.
Right. And I think setting I think the competition aspect's a good idea for myself also, and for anybody. If you sign up for something, you're going to train your ass off to get to that point. You're not going to go unprepared, or you're not going to go, period. So
yeah, absolutely.
If you force yourself to sign up for something that's a little bit out of your comfort zone, you're going to look at that differently than just setting an odd goal or setting a goal and then working towards that, because it's pretty easy to sidetrack and say, I won't make it in today, we'll make it up tomorrow. But if in the looming future that you have a comp coming up, you're going to come in here and get the work done.
Yeah.
And I think that's key. No matter what it is, setting that, making yourself accountable, either because you paid $40 and you're going to show up and you don't want to look like a jackass when you get there, or, just some people are motivated by that. Some people can do it, but they probably have a lot more self-discipline than I do, that's for sure.
Well, even not so much just looking like a jackass when you go out there, but, you're wearing your gym shirt. You want to go represent your gym. You want to, put a good, put the gym's name out there and it be a recognizable name. Like, they're going to see, maybe we got a guy that's, 5'4", 150 pounds, but he goes out there and snatches 250.
That's awesome.
Hell, that'd be
Are you saying
cool.
Marcus is going to snatch 250?
There's a possibility.
He could.
He's a crazy little guy.
He could.
But, you got somebody that does something crazy like that, wearing your gym shirt, people are going to take notice of that. They're going to be like, what the heck are these guys doing?
Yep.
So that's just...
And that's always our goal, is to get as many people in here and wanting to work as hard as we do. I mean, that should be any gym's goal,
the
really.
more like-minded people you put together, the better your results are going to be. So what about Anthony? What about you? What are your goals coming out of the Open, as more of on like a coach's standpoint? And like, what do you want to see from our athletes and whatnot?
I just want to see filling in the holes. I mean, we obviously had a deficiency with gymnastics. We'll fill that in. We'll fix that problem for sure with the program. I think it'll fall in line. Just more goal setting, and not limiting yourself. You know what I mean? Like, go big. Like, there's no reason not to shoot for the stars with stuff. Like you're saying, like, I know I'm not going to get to regionals, but hell, why not make that a goal? Not maybe you don't get to regionals, but maybe you get top 60.
Yeah,
like
even
that,
if you fall short, you're better off than you were if you set a lower goal.
Yeah, that's still pretty fucking good. Like, maybe if you're like, well, I know, it's like you give yourself an out. Don't give yourself an out. Put it on paper. Make it,
like
on
that.
paper, on purpose. Like Dave Ramsey says, right? On paper, on purpose. Write it down so it's looking back at you. We got a whole board over there that says, what are your goals? And then we lovingly wrote, how are you going to get there next to it. When in all actuality, that's the coach's job to direct you to get there. So for our athletes, my goals are whatever your goals are. We'll help you get to whatever you want to get to. You just got to ask for it. I don't know what your goals are if you don't tell me, and I can't make your goals for you. So that's what it is. On a personal standpoint, I just want to get through the Open unbroken for a year. So I'm gonna spend this year trying to rehab as many injuries as I can, focusing on nutrition, focusing on reducing inflammation, starting tomorrow. But that's what I'm gonna focus on. And maybe a couple other things, more work-related stuff. On my quote unquote real job with the police department. But yeah, and then a bunch of stuff, a bunch of goals as far as running the business and owning a business, and that's a whole other set of goals and another skill set in and of itself for sure. So, yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome.
I think we're all definitely on the same page with moving forward off.
Yes.
Coming out of the Open with the whole life challenge is kind of our big kickoff going into summer.
Exciting things.
Yeah.
With our powers combined.
Knuckle it up, man.
Well, I think that's probably a good breaking point.
That's
for us
enough
today.
abuse on the public for one night. I think
we'll end the worst podcast of all time today.
No, dude,
right
no
now.
way. I think it went great. Got to
start somewhere.
Right.
Yeah. So look forward to more of these, and we'll get better with time for sure. So we'll actually have guests, and it'll be exciting.
Yep.
Rather than just semi-informative.
Yeah.
I think it went pretty awesome. I'm pretty
Yeah.
happy.
All right.
Yeah, it's a good start.
Biceps and Bullets, episode 1.
Biceps and Bullets.
Complete.
All right.
Ready, break.